Welcome to my presentation. You folks better buckle up as I tell you the story of my 1997 Pontiac Trans Am. Let's go. Anything in life, whether it be a car or a clock, needs the appropriate parts to function. Without them, they'll just fall apart, stop working. So that is why my thesis statement is whatever your possible problem or desired modification will determine the parts that you need. But before you go fixing anything, you need to know what you're fixing and how to fix it. So let's start with number one. After lots of research on the Firebirds, mine, being a 1997, has what they call an LT1 engine. It is an aluminum head cast iron block. It put out about 305 horsepower, which for a 90s car is quite good. And since the block was made of cast iron and the heads were made of aluminum, it had a nice mix of weight and rigidness. However, anything has its flaws. For example, the LT1's distributor, also known as the OptiSpark, which is the component used to distribute electrical current, it was placed underneath the water pump. So if your water pump goes bad and starts leaking, it's leaking all over your distributor, causing more damage. And as we all know, water and electricity, they don't mesh. The other minor inconvenience are the passenger side spark plugs, which are buried under hoses and electronics. And it takes quite a while to change them, which I'll go over in just a little bit. After all the research and decision making was done, we found a car on Facebook Marketplace that we thought would work well. Only downside to going and getting it was that it was all the way in Philadelphia. So it was me, my dad, and my dad's friend. We took the truck and a borrowed trailer and made the journey all the way to Philadelphia to go get it. There was also a spare motor and transmission that we picked up just in case we needed it, which was funny, only 10 minutes away from where the car was. Mind blown. That whole expedition by itself took about 20 or so hours, and we forgot to get an authentic Philly cheesesteak. A few days after we brought it home, we started to get to work. So we took out the radiator and replaced the spark plugs, which took about 18 hours, and I'll tell you why. About, let's say, 7 or so of those were getting this freaking big aluminum racing radiator out of the car so we could return it to stock form. And then the spark plugs I was talking about, the driver's side was good. That didn't take that much time. But then came the rear passenger one. I had to come in from the top. My dad was on the bottom, and it took both of us to get this thing out. It was not a fun day. And then on December 23rd, we replaced the window motors for both doors. That took about 4 hours. And then on the 29th, we ordered a K&N air intake, or a cold air intake, just for a little bit of bolt-on power. That took about 1 hour to put together. This also leads back to my previous thesis statement, where you can't just throw on whatever you want and expect it to work. The air intake needed to fit on the throttle body and then snake down behind the wheel well. To get the wrong one, the hood won't close. On April 6th, we got some drilled and slotted rotors and put new brakes in the rear. That took about 2 hours. Then January 9th through April 23rd, we put new front suspension assembly and brakes in the front. Now, here's what's interesting. The model from 2002 has a different front suspension assembly and braking system. In 2002, it has a double piston brake caliper, and my year, the 97, only has a single piston. So we took out the original braking system in the front and replaced it with a 2002 to give it better braking. And that took about 8 hours. On August 24th, we got some new seat covers to cover up the damaged seats. That took all 15 minutes, it's no big deal. Then October 3rd to the 12th, we had to replace the front oil seals in the engine. That took about 4 hours of labor. And we had to take off the water pump and OptiSpark to get at those. And while we were at it, we replaced those as well. And then March 13th, we put in a new dash pad to the top because it was all cracked and destroyed originally. And that took about an hour. And then March 16th, we got new wheels, tires, and rear wheel spacers for the entire car. It took about an hour. And fun fact, a lot of GM's cars, GM being General Motors, share a similar stud pattern. Studs are the little screw things that you put your wheels on. So we got some Corvette wheels for this thing, and by golly do they look awesome! And then we needed some rear spacers because the rear tires were too deep. You couldn't even put them on the rear axle without rubbing on the frame. So a little bit of research and fine tuning, we landed on some wheel spacers that work quite well. Long story short, we took this car, gave it new life, and transformed it into this. This whole endeavor has taught me quite a few things. For example, how to maintain and take care of a car. Because if you're going to own anything, wouldn't you want to know how to take care of and service it so it can last as long as it can? Also, this has also taught me how to bargain hunt and look for parts and make sure you're getting a good deal. The final thing this whole project has taught me is patience. So much patience. Because there's been plenty of times that I've wanted to throw a wrench at a window or just completely give up, but it takes resolve and, like I said, some patience. And that's all there is to it. Thank you for your time and attention today. If you have any questions, feel free to direct them to me now. Thank you for watching.